Welcome to our channel, friends, a place where shadows dance and whispers echo with the chills of realities unseen. Tonight, we descend into the unsettling world of cursed art, where beauty hides a terrifying secret. We have 3 tales for you, each one focused on a painting that twists and warps over time, revealing the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. So dim the lights, lock your doors, and prepare to be disturbed because these stories will linger long after the video fades to black. Our first story begins with a painting, an idyllic landscape that seemed to capture the very essence of tranquility. Imagine, if you will, rolling green hills, a sky ablaze with the fiery hues of a setting sun, and a meandering river reflecting the dying light. The painting was acquired by a young art collector named Edward, who saw in its beauty a reflection of his own yearning for a simpler life. He hung the painting in his study, its presence a constant source of comfort and inspiration. At first, the changes were subtle, almost imperceptible to the human eye. The once vibrant greens of the hills seemed to dull, the sky's fiery palette giving way to an unsettling shade of purple. Edward initially dismissed these changes, attributing them to the fading light or perhaps his own weary mind. But as days turned into nights, the transformations grew more pronounced, more unsettling. The river, once a shimmering ribbon of silver, now churned with an unnatural darkness. One evening, Edward noticed a new and horrifying detail in the painting. The trees, once full and verdant, were now twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. But it was the figure that emerged from the heart of the woods that truly chilled Edward to his core. It was a solitary figure, shrouded in shadow, its eyes burning with an unholy light. Fear, primal and suffocating, tightened its grip on Edward's heart. He tried to look away, but the figure held him captive, its gaze piercing the veil of reality. Night after night, the figure in the painting grew larger, its form becoming clearer with each passing hour. Desperate for answers, Edward began to research the painting's origins. He discovered that the painting was created by an artist known for his dark and mysterious works. This artist, it was said, had dabbled in the occult, infusing his art with a malevolent energy. The realization struck Edward like a bolt of lightning. The painting was not just a piece of art, it was a portal to a realm of darkness and despair, where the figure in the painting resided. In a frantic attempt to rid himself of the cursed artwork, Edward tried to remove the painting from his study, but the painting seemed to resist, as if it had a will of its own. Exhausted and defeated, Edward collapsed into his chair, the painting still hanging ominously on the wall. The figure in the painting now seemed almost ready to step out into the real world. Edward's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the true horror of his situation. The figure's hand reached out from the canvas, bridging the gap between the two worlds. Edward's scream echoed through the room as the figure began to emerge fully. The serene landscape was now a gateway to a nightmare, and Edward was its first victim. The study room fell silent, the painting now exuding a dark and foreboding aura. The figure was gone from the painting, but its presence lingered, a haunting reminder of the darkness that had been unleashed. The once serene landscape had become a symbol of terror, forever altering the life of the young art collector. And so the painting remained, a silent witness to the horrors it had brought into the world, a serene landscape now forever tainted by the darkness that lurked within. Our next story revolves around a painting of exquisite beauty, a portrait of a woman so captivating that it was said to steal the breath from any who gazed upon it. The artist, whose name has been lost to time, poured their soul into capturing her essence. Her eyes, shimmering emeralds that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, were the focal point of the painting. Her lips, a delicate rose frozen in a timeless smile, added an air of mystery and allure. This mesmerizing portrait was displayed in a small, unassuming gallery, a hidden gem among the bustling art scene. Tucked away on a quiet side street, the gallery was known only to a select few art enthusiasts. It wasn't long before the painting caught the eye of a wealthy art collector named William, a man with a discerning taste for the extraordinary. William was immediately smitten by the woman in the portrait, her beauty both captivating and strangely unsettling. He felt an inexplicable connection to her. Her beauty was so intense that it left him feeling both enchanted and uneasy, as if she were watching him. He had to have it, this masterpiece, this treasure that would be the crown jewel of his collection. He felt a compulsion, almost as if the painting was calling out to him. William purchased the portrait for an exorbitant sum and hung it in his grand mansion. proud of his latest acquisition. The portrait was given a place of honor in his luxurious home, where it could be admired by all who visited. At first, William couldn't take his eyes off the portrait. He was drawn to it, spending hours each day just staring at her, lost in her emerald gaze. He would sit for hours, entranced by her beauty, feeling a strange sense of peace and fascination. Lost in her emerald gaze, he felt as though he were peering into another world, one filled with secrets and untold stories. But as the days turned into weeks, William began to notice something peculiar. The woman in the portrait, her once radiant smile, seemed to twist into a cruel smirk. The change was subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew more pronounced with each passing day. One evening, as William sat in his study, he glanced at the portrait, his blood running cold. The woman's emerald eyes now burned with a cold, malevolent light. Her eyes, once filled with mystery and allure, now seemed to harbor a sinister intent. Her lips, no longer curved in a gentle smile, were pulled back in a grotesque mockery of a grin, as if she were mocking him. Fear began to creep into William's heart. He felt as though the painting was alive, watching his every move. With each passing day, the changes in the portrait became more pronounced. The once smooth porcelain skin of the woman began to crack and decay. Her once lustrous hair hung in limp, greasy strands infested with insects. The transformation was horrifying. The painting, once a symbol of beauty and grace, had become a nightmarish vision of decay and corruption. William's once grand mansion now felt like a prison, haunted by the ever-watching eyes of the portrait. The atmosphere grew heavy with dread. The eyes of the portrait seemed to follow him wherever he went, a constant reminder of the curse he had brought into his home. Chapter 3. The Peaceful Village. Our final tale takes us to the heart of the countryside, to a quaint and peaceful village nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering meadows. This village, with its serene atmosphere and picturesque landscapes, seemed like a place where time stood still, where the hustle and bustle of modern life felt like a distant memory. The painting depicted a simpler time, a time of community and shared traditions. It was a window into a world where neighbors knew each other by name, and the rhythm of life was dictated by the changing seasons. The villagers, their faces etched with the wisdom of generations past, were captured going about their daily lives. They were seen tending to their gardens, children playing in the fields, and elders sharing stories by the fireside. The painting was purchased by a renowned art museum, its tranquil beauty a stark contrast to the museum's more modern and abstract pieces. It was a piece that evoked nostalgia and a longing for a simpler, more connected way of life. It was displayed in a place of honor, its presence a soothing balm for the soul. Visitors would often find themselves pausing in front of it, lost in the tranquility it exuded. Visitors to the museum would often find themselves drawn to the painting, their gaze lingering on the idyllic scene. It was as if the painting had a magnetic pull, inviting them to step into its world and leave their worries behind. But as the weeks turned into months, a subtle and unsettling change began to creep into the painting. It was so gradual that at first no one noticed. At first the changes were barely noticeable, a shadow here, a darkened corner there. It was easy to dismiss them as tricks of the light or the result of the painting's age. The smiles on the villagers' faces seemed to fade ever so slightly. What once were expressions of joy and contentment now seemed tinged with sadness and unease. One evening, a security guard making his rounds noticed something chilling about the painting. He had seen it countless times before, but tonight something was different. The villagers in the painting, their once warm and inviting eyes now burned with an eerie, almost predatory light. It was as if they were watching him, aware of his presence. Their postures, once relaxed and natural, now seemed stiff and unnatural. The villagers appeared frozen in a moment of fear or anticipation. The security guard, his heart pounding in his chest, tried to shake off the feeling of unease. He told himself it was just his imagination, but the sense of dread lingered. But the longer he looked at the painting, the more convinced he became that something was terribly wrong. The changes were too deliberate, too intentional to be mere coincidence. As the days turned into nights, the changes in the painting became more pronounced. The once familiar scene was transforming into something dark and foreboding. The once bright and cheerful colors of the village began to fade, replaced by a sickly, almost putrid palette. The vibrant greens of the meadows turned to a dull, lifeless gray. The sky, once a brilliant blue, now loomed over the village like a bruise. It was as if the painting itself was decaying, taking the village and its inhabitants with it. Visitors began to whisper among themselves, sharing their unease. The painting that once brought peace now filled them with a sense of dread. The museum curator, puzzled and concerned, examined the painting closely. He couldn't understand how or why it was changing, but he knew it was no longer the same piece they had acquired. Eventually, the decision was made to remove the painting from display. It was taken down and stored away, its eerie transformation a mystery that remained unsolved. The space where the painting once hung now stood empty, a silent reminder of the village that had once been so peaceful, now lost to the shadows of time. And so, we find ourselves at the end of tonight's journey into the unsettling realm of cursed art. The paintings, once objects of beauty and inspiration, now stand as chilling reminders that not all is as it seems. The stories we've shared tonight serve as a warning, a reminder that the things we surround ourselves with can hold power, both good and evil. If you found yourselves captivated by these tales of cursed paintings, give this video a thumbs up. It truly helps us out and lets us know you enjoyed this descent into darkness. And while you're down there, hit that subscribe button and join our ever-growing community of horror enthusiasts. Until next time, keep the lights on, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful facades conceal the darkest of secrets. Sweet dreams.